24 Mississippi State. So the two SEC teams taking there of the bottom two. West Virginia has leaped back in to the top 25. That's one that you thought was that we were going to see today.
I said on our college football recap show from this morning, I thought West Virginia would easily hop back in the top 25. A couple impressive wins for them. They're currently sitting at 3-1. Especially with Oklahoma State going down, I think that kind of balances the power a little bit in the Big 12 away from the top, and I think West Virginia hopping back in is good for that conference as well.
Notre Dame is at number 22. This is something you don't like, Harris.
I don't like. I understand they're 3-1 and they haven't beaten anyone, and yes, there are other teams that haven't beaten anyone else, but just usually, maybe they're in this because their name is Notre Dame, but I just don't see a lot of talent on this team. They've beaten Temple, Boston College, and a really, really bad Michigan State team.
We don't know how good Michigan State is. Who would you have above Notre Dame then? Who are you going to put above them?
I mean, that's a difficult part because it kind of goes back to, who would you actually – I guess you're right. Who would you put over Notre Dame right now? Who is a 3-1 team? There isn't really anyone off the top of my head that I can kind of think, they've really stood out to put ahead of them. But having them ahead of West Virginia and LSU and Mississippi State is a little bit ridiculous to me. I think having them at number 25 again will be fine, but having them hop over LSU, who's been in the top 25 the entire season, Mississippi State, who's looked really good outside of one game on the road.
Everything that outside of Mississippi State, who did beat LSU, but LSU hasn't beaten anyone either. They beat BYU, they beat Chattanooga. They didn't look very good against Syracuse.
That's fair.
Yesterday either.
And I'm not saying that LSU should be way up there. I would have liked to see West Virginia at 22, Mississippi State at 24, and then Notre Dame.
West Virginia's schedule has been even worse than Notre Dame's. ECU, Delaware State, and Kansas.
They have played easier teams. However, I still think that West Virginia, as an overall talent, if you're looking at the team that they have, is better. If you put West Virginia and Notre Dame on a team, West Virginia is going to blow them away.
I'm not so sure because the only loss Notre Dame has was against a top 10 Georgia team, hinted as you guys can see on your screen there later on. And it was a 1-point loss.
True, but at the same time, they don't have a lot of NFL talent on either side of the ball.
See, I don't agree with that.
I think that West Virginia team has at least 3 players on the defensive side of the ball that's going to be an NFL talent, probably later round picks. But if you look at the Notre Dame team, who on that team is a high-end talent? EQ St. Brown. Okay, I'll give you him. He's a great wide receiver. And then after that, it's
Quentin Nelson is one of the better guards. Mike McGlinchey's a very talented player as well.
But that's where it ends. I just don't see this as a talented Notre Dame team. I think that they're going to go, whenever they go up against an overall team that's just in general more talented than them, they're going to get blown out.
Well, we will see what happens there in the rest of the season. Florida was 21. Utah jumps in at number 20. They were 23 last week. And then a pair of group of 5 teams. San Diego State at 19 and South Florida at 18, both of whom were out at the top 20 last week and are now inside the top 20, and they are undefeated.
You gotta like seeing San Diego State in there. I think it's really nice. I mean, they've been a really good story this year, 4-0. I mean, again, another team that, they had a big win against Stanford 2 weeks ago. They just beat Air Force, who, hey, they gave Michigan some fits, so I guess that adds a little bit of toughness. But Adam Werma, their running back, has been outstanding for them so far this year. I think as a whole, great to see San Diego State actually, doing things again inside of college football. I love this Utah team. It's just a very typical Utah team. They run the ball super well. That defense is super stout. And then on the other side, having Florida still in the top 25, I know they didn't lose, but it's a meme at this point. It's such a meme. They barely beat Kentucky. They barely beat Tennessee. They're scraping by right now. But also that the USF team led by Charlie Strong, they look great too. I know they play in the AFC,
they have a very easy schedule.
I know, but hey, the team is talented and they're rolling right now. They're winning the games they're supposed to be winning, and that's important for a team that's not a great conference.
Louisville is at number 17. Washington State is now number 16. They are undefeated 4-0, one of the lower-ranked undefeated teams in the AP poll.
And I'm not surprised by that. I think there are still a lot of questions to them on the defensive side of the ball. It's really good to see that Luke Falk the past couple of weeks has gotten his game back in order. He got benched a couple games ago, and then yesterday just completely blew them out of the water. 4 or 5 touchdowns, over 400 yards passing. He was outstanding. So he's supposed to be a first-round pick this year, quarterback. I don't know. I think we're going to see him.
He's not going to go first round.
I think we're going to see him kind of go in the Derek Carr range of early to mid-second
I don't know if he's even going to go that early. His arm strength is not that great.
I think that his football IQ and his just overall ability at the quarterback position, he has great pocket awareness. He might not have the arm strength, but he's deadly accurate in the short and mid-game. He doesn't have a great deep ball, which I think is what you're talking about.
As a backup QB.
Yes, me as well. I think he'll still go in the mid-second round just with how quarterbacks quarterbacks are going nowadays.
Oklahoma State there is at number 15. They had fallen from 6 after they lost to TCU.
Yeah, that's tough, and it kind of puts TCU and Oklahoma on a collision course for the title game. But it's unfortunate because I still... It's hard to say this because I know they just lost. I still think Oklahoma State is the better overall team than TCU, but they didn't win.
It's Oklahoma State, a streaky but talented offense and a defense that doesn't know how to play unless they're up by several points.
And, it's also a shame because after this year, you don't really know where Oklahoma State is going to go in terms of an overall football team. I mean, they're losing Mason Rudolph and they're losing James Washington. Right there. Boom. They're two best players in the entire team and going to the NFL. So them dropping down to 15 probably puts them out of college football playoff contention. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
The Hurricanes check in at number 14. They are still undefeated. Auburn is at 13. Then another ACC team, Virginia Tech, is at number 12. They are 4-0 this year.
I love it. Josh Jackson coming in at number 5 in our Heisman list this morning. The dude's been just an absolute revelation. They lost Gerard Evans to the draft. Weirdly, he probably should have stayed in school.
Yeah, he definitely should have stayed.
But here comes Josh Jackson, 11 touchdowns to 1 pick, 4-0 record in his first 4 games. He looks outstanding. He looks like the answer. They had a lot of questions on the offensive side of the ball going into this year. They always had a solid defense the past couple of years in terms of recruiting, but they can never get that leadership position on the offense figured out. And here comes Josh Jackson. They're 4-0, probably the second best team in the ACC right now.
OSU was 10 last week. They dropped to 11 this week because TCU and Georgia rose above them.
This is still, to me, this Ohio State team is very talented. It's very uninspiring. Like, you know what you're going to get every single game. JT Barrett's going to dump it off to people who are faster than everyone else on the field, and they're going to score long touchdowns. The defense is going to do a decent job of turning the ball over, but, I mean, this team isn't better. I don't think they're better than Wisconsin. I don't think they're better than Penn State, and I don't really know if they're better than Michigan. We'll see, because I think, they're not like the Spider-Man thing where they're pointing at each other, but Michigan and Ohio State have very similar issues.
Wisconsin there at number 10. They're still undefeated. TCU jumped from 16 to 9 after they upset Oklahoma State.
Kenny Trill Hill, baby. Kenny Hill taking the TCU Horned Frogs into the top 10. I mentioned on the show this morning, this is just credit to Gary Patterson. Year in, year out, turning this team into a nobody, like almost like a decade ago, and now they are a perennial contender back in the top 10. Probably the best defense in the Big 12, if that's a thing. I don't know. But at the same time, the offense is rolling, defense is playing well. I don't think this is a playoff team, but this is a team that's going to give Oklahoma fits late in the year.
Michigan checks in at number 8. They're exactly where they were last week.
I don't know how Ohio State falls a spot and Michigan stays the same spot.
Because TCU didn't jump Michigan. That's how.
It's just, to me, like, this Michigan team, I don't know how they're the number 8 team in the country. Their defense is great. Don Brown is maybe the best defensive coordinator in all of college football. Probably is. But Wilton Spate just went down. We have no idea what his injury is going to be.
John O'Korn looked better, though.
John O'Korn did look good. The run game allowed them to actually open up a little bit in the passing game for one of the first times this season. But, I don't know. I think they're going to get absolutely smoked by the other Big Ten competition. Their game against Penn State, it's going to be a rough one this year.
Michigan did pound Penn State last year.
They did.
But this is a very different Penn State team.
Very true. Very true.
Georgia checks in at number 7. They were outside the top 10. I think they are very clearly the clear-cut favorites in the SEC East now.
And it's good to see that this Georgia team's able to do it with a new head coach. Now that Mark Richt is gone, I mean, the whole script with Georgia is that, they would get into the top 10 and then, just they would poop out. But this seems to be a little bit of a different team. I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like because Eason will be healthy eventually. Fromm has looked great the past 2 weeks, and Nick Chubb is just rolling along, is the quietest great running back that we have in college football right now. He's so consistent. He's so safe. This is a really good Georgia team. Again, they have a really difficult schedule probably for the rest of the season. I think that they're going to start to get a little bit of struggle. But for the most part, I mean, taking down Mississippi State at home is a great win for them. But they still have to face Florida. They still have to face Auburn. I think home against South Carolina is going to be a tough game. But I think the game in Auburn is going to be a really tough one for them.
Washington is at number 6. They moved up from number 7.
This is the most, I'll say this, this is the most underrated team in college. I know it's weird to say the number 6 team in college football is underrated. Nobody's talking about this team. This team is so good. This is easily the best defense in the Pac-12. Jake Browning, who a lot of people thought was going to regress, has not regressed at all. Myles Gaskin looks outstanding at the running back position. The offensive line might be the best in all of college football outside of maybe Alabama. But this Washington team means a lot of business. I can't wait for them to start playing a couple more ranked teams inside of the Pac-12 as the season goes on. I do believe they still have a game coming up against UCLA in a couple weeks. They still have Stanford to go to. No, they are not. But then they have the last 2 games of the year coming up against Utah and then Washington State.
Apple Cup.
And then maybe another 3rd game after that for the Pac-12 title against USC if they make it there. So their hardest games are still ahead of them. And they still have to face Oregon and go into Stanford.
I would have Washington ahead of USC. I don't think USC's looked all that good. They're still number 5 because of the preseason hype around them, but I think they've looked pretty unimpressive thus far.
I think if you put USC and Washington on the same field, I think you're going to see a team full of experienced players versus a team full of players who just got good. I think this Washington team, the one thing that I've loved watching about them, they're very mature. They're very condensed, and they're very just calm about the way that they play. They don't get ahead of themselves. They stay within their game plan. I feel that a lot of what we've seen with Sam Darnold this year is him literally trying to do too much with the ball. He's thrown an interception in every single game this season. Is this a big-time issue for him? Maybe, maybe not. But at the same time, I think it's also a little bit worrying that I don't know if he trusts his defense. And I don't really trust USC's defense either. But Jake Browning is the full lead-on commander of this team. He has full control of this football
Sam
team.
Darnold has to stop throwing interceptions. It has killed USC. We saw that a little bit late in the year. It was an issue in camp, and it hasn't gone away. That's a concern.
They almost lost to Cal.
They almost lost to Texas too.
30-20 against Cal is not a convincing win. This was not a good Cal football team. So when I see him struggle immensely in the first half and pull it away finally in the second half once they got the running game going.
We saw that against Western Michigan at the end of the 3rd quarter. That was a tied game.
So I think you're right. I think the reason that they're still number 5 is because of that hype, and I think that when it comes to Washington, they're still waiting for them to get that win because right now they beat Rutgers, Montana, Fresno State, and Colorado. They play Oregon State and California, and then Arizona State the next 3 weeks.
Pretty easy open season schedule.
We don't
for the
know,
Huskies.
But at the same time, I mean, it's not like USC has like a cupcake schedule coming up as well. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. I mean, USC is Washington State next week, Utah in 2 weeks, Notre Dame. They still have to face Arizona at home. So we got a couple good matchups coming up in the Pac-12, and I think Washington will end up being higher than the Trojans.
The top 5 actually didn't change. Penn State's still at number 4, Oklahoma at 3 with 1 first-place vote, actually.
Well, the Oklahoma first-place vote is a little bit confusing to me because that means that whoever that voter is thinks that they're better than Clemson and Alabama. I said on the show this morning that I think Penn State should be 3. Not that it's anything that Oklahoma hasn't done, and you know, at this point, it's kind of splitting hairs because if you're in the top 4, you're in the top 4.
Yeah.
But
you're exactly where you want to be.
A win for me for Penn State going on the road against Iowa, just at night. We know how difficult of a game that is to win. Michigan. It blew up their season last year, despite them losing to Ohio State. Once they lost to Iowa, it was downhill from there. But Penn State, they gave the ball to Barkley. They let him take control of the game. And when push came to shove, they needed McSorley to make another big play for them. And like he has done the past season and a half, he has made the big play. And that was a huge win for them.
Actually, of the top 5 teams, only Alabama won handily. Because Clemson was a tie game entering the 4th quarter against a bad Boston College team.
That was weird. That was weird. I have no idea what happened there because that wasn't like, oh, they went into Boston College, and Boston College can be like a fun team, but this is a bad Boston College team. This is a Boston College team that Adazio should be fired for, and Clemson couldn't score points in them until the 4th quarter.
So the first place vote breakdown here, folks, is Oklahoma has 1, Clemson has 8, Alabama has 52. So the voters still heavily favoring the Alabama Crimson Tide so far. We will continue to loop the AP Top 25 poll. That's going to do it here for Harris and myself. Again, a big thank you to our sponsor today, Gametime. Harris, if you need to buy tickets, Gametime is the way to go. Number 1 mobile app for last-minute tickets for college football fans. The reviews speak for themselves. High reviewed on the Play Store and on the iOS Store. Again, head to Gametime. Get the Gametime app. You'll get up to 60% off your tickets at the last minute. So for producer Brett Scott, I'm Tom Downey. That's Harris Rubenstein. We'll keep looping that AP Top 25 poll for you, but that's it for us.